Hello everyone. Today I got a whiteboard. A whiteboard, and it's totally different from the blackboard. Not because it has grid, but that's like an accident. I'm gonna use this grid to kind of tell a comics type of story. Just one picture into another picture into another picture, like snapshotting my whole experience. And this time I'm gonna talk about the Global Game Jam Experience 2016, which I completed only like 80%. I skipped the last part because like this dude like walks away from the explosions, don't really looks at the explosions because I'm too cool for that. I don't want to waste my time with some stupid shit like watching the devastation that happens afterwards. I did what I had to do, and I went out of it. So I'm not gonna spoil that part because that's the ending. What I'm gonna do is tell the whole story. So it all starts me like realizing, holy shit, there's 1 month left and it's gonna be a game jam time. So at that point I was starting to prepare myself, and it's not much of preparation, but I did some programming, right? I did some thinking of what do I have to do to really prepare myself. But again, not much happened. It's just that I became more comfortable with my touchscreen computer and programming with that type of system. I did some touchscreen input, so that would be a big thing in the game jam. While I was thinking of ideas, I would have this huge tool of input, of touchscreen input, so I would understand it better and I would be able to use it as a tool. But now, so I figure out like, okay, I could go to my friend's place as well, and because, well, there was an event in his town, and certainly there's 0 events in my town. It's just that we kind of far apart, like 8 hours apart. That would take for me to get to his place. So that was like an opportunity. I could do both. I could go to my friend and then do a global game jam. Okay. So that was the idea. My friend accepted the idea, and he kind of like over accepted the idea. Like I must go to his place or something like that. And it was a long journey. Expected 8 hours turned into 9 hours because of some idiots on the tracks, right? Well, probably already dead. I don't know what happened. Just, that was the story that I got for 1 hour delay of a journey. That was kind of annoying. Also, it was full moon. I always blame full moon for stupidity. But anyways, I would get to my friend's place. It would be kind of awkward. It would be kind of awkward because of the fact that we didn't know what to do, pretty much. So we just kind of decided to play with the PC, obviously, with the huge screen that he had. Huge. And his system is pretty awesome. Like, he's kind of perfectionist type of dude that tries to perfect the performance of the system, perfect, the whole resolution thing, the whole how games quality thing. So that's one of the aspects of it. But for me, I have this laptop that I brought, touchscreen laptop. It runs all those games that I liked. There were 2 games that I liked from the play session with my friend, which was Unreal Tournament and Dirt. These kind of like the titles that kind of describe themselves, basically. Yeah, like, because it was such a long time after their initial release and then all this development. It's like a Minesweeper of things, because I played yesterday Minesweeper and I thought about it. Like this game has been for such a long time under development, just like Mario and things, and they get better over time. And that's what I kind of aim to do with my Spawned engine, to keep the engine for a long time until it develops and into a certain point where it just has this fan base already and people enjoy it, right? Anyways, like, Minecraft is probably never gonna die off until the development stops, right? That's kind of the idea of perpetual development. Anyway, so I move on. I had to go to a university, but first I stop at the university that my friend goes, because we had extra time. So he said, like, yeah, these are like 2 best lectures that we had to sit through, but yeah, here's a bunch of slaves. And I would say, like, nah, 2 out of 10. That's bullcrap. You can watch YouTube videos at your comfort zone. You can really analyze everything. Go into this isolation mode and just figure out what the solution to problems is. Just, the stuff that I'm doing right now, just a lot of thinking. You can do in isolation, that's all you need. And be here in the crowd watching a video, which is stupid. Because that's initially what you're watching. I mean, you're not really interacting with the person that is showing you things most of the time. And even if you do, like, it has to be like most common questions, and you cannot really ask questions about the thing that you don't know. So it's like watching a video. There's not much difference there. That's why I don't go to university. It feels so stupid. So stupid. Anyways, so I finished that. I go to my university where the game jam. I mean, it's not mine, but that's where I spent 2 days, and definitely more days than my friend did. So 2 whole days I had to spend in the building, the game jam site, I will call it. I can call it. But yeah, the first awkward thing would be to just figure out that this is like the main building, and there were a bunch of students, right, sitting down, a bunch of chairs. I would think it's kind of like normal environment, like it wasn't untouched, or was untouched by the game jam itself. So there were no posters of game jam, there were no indications of game jam. Once I went through like the whole area, scavenged basically, this is what I got. I got a bottle of mineral water, like the best thing ever. And I think it had blue tip, which is completely different from the green tip, which sucked, right? But that was, I would say, the best drink I ever had through the entirety of Game Jam, with the exception of juice being kind of good, like juice in the box. You know what I mean. And the straw. To suck the box out. Anyways, so I would settle down in this 2x2 desk type of thing, and I would see more and more computers being brought into the place, and there would be one dude that would sit alone just like me, and I was like, I'm interested. I was interested, and through the entirety of Game Jam I was interested in that dude and tried to contact him. Hopefully I'm gonna find him on Facebook or something like that, but it's gonna be a tough search. But I sometimes succeed on that stuff, so who knows, maybe I'll make it. It's harder because it's Scotland. I don't know if people tag themselves on photos, so that's probably impossible. I just might see a photo of him, but yeah, it's not gonna help much. But moving on, there's more and more stuff going around me. The organizer has announced stuff. I would continue sitting, but after a while people would just steal my place and say, oh, this is for very important people, for VIP, man. Just go sit over there in more in the middle, which is kind of weird. I mean, what? I'm even more important, so I have to sit in the middle. This is how it looks like. This is where people like had a microphone set up, right? So loudspeakers here, and I would speak. I would say like, oh, does anyone wants to join the team, right? Because that's what was set up at one moment, where a bunch of people without teams were gathered, and I would be like this one douchebag that would say, oh, I do a lot of hard programming, and I have this idea. By that time, I generated idea, and the theme was ritual, right? But the whole fucking thing was a ritual for me, like sitting down for 2 days, like sleeping 8 hours or something in total. That was a fucking ritual. I mean, what I would do is just like do this, kind of not really sleep, but kind of try to rest down. But the way I looked at it, after like 2 days, my eyes were super fucking red. I don't know, like super red. Just bleeding, right? After that, I don't know what happens all the time with my stupid eyes, but damn it. I mean, that's a skip forward, but yeah. So what happened next? I would present myself as a douchebag. Obviously nobody cares about a douchebag. One dude just came in like, oh, if you need some help with Unity, we can like help you out. Whatever. I don't care. I don't need help for Unity. I mean, if I need help, then damn it, how can I not find help in the internet? But there was one time when I was stuck, so I still don't think like I'm that type of douchebag that doesn't think that you can just fucking read my code and figure out what the problem is. That's not gonna happen. Like, I'm a better reader of my code than you are. That's the type of thinking that I had. So I don't know. I never tried, so that's kind of douchebag thinking because you never tried. But whatever. So I'd be like super antisocial. I would be like this one-man team in the end, trying to do my own thing. Kind of like always, but this time I was surrounded by a bunch of people and noise and stuff like that. And one thing I was surrounded by is the feeling that I have to do this, right? Like, I have to constantly work because that's a very small period of time. the way I would organize the time right now is basically 1 day of jamming, 1 day of prototyping. That's like the basic plan. You wanna just jam an idea, make sure it is possible to do, and it works. So to the point where the prototype kind of works, then you'd start did I say prototyping? Or polishing? I meant polishing, okay? So the polishing part is where you already have something, just very, very straightforward, made an idea, and then you start kind of polishing up what that idea looks like. But yeah, at the very first stage you prototype and finish the idea. And again, I use this touch screen input type of thing as my primary focus for what I can do. And the first idea was that, okay, let's make it personal, because theme ritual means very personal stuff, basically. That's only what you know how to do. Or you have a group of people that know how to make a ritual, right? It's mostly about a group of people, or how to identify yourself in a group. I didn't thought about it that way, but I thought it was like super personal. That's a thing that only you know. And there was something that kind of supported that idea. I'm not sure what that was, but I took this idea, and my idea was just to have a bunch of items, and you can move them around as one player, and the second player have to do the same type of movement with the same items. But that would be very hard to do, because if you want to draw a circle on the screen, there are different sizes of circles that you have to check, and if there are a bunch of shapes already registered, so they all have to be different sizes, right? That's really hard to do. Not only that, there's another problem of different scaling in the same image, where you kind of, when you're drawing a T, you have to know where the intersection is, how long can this be, how long can this be, because there can be different lengths, different ratios of T's, but it's kind of weird to do. It would take more than 2 days, definitely, to figure out how it works, and I don't have much time for that. It kind of gives me an idea, because I was saying like, oh, I use this, and in order to do this I kind of have to have a tool already, so I'm not sure. Usually when I have an idea, I kind of make myself push forward a little bit. That's where this idea comes from, just making one YouTube video every single week. That's like the main purpose of YouTube, like getting to the point where you're making very professional and personal content in 1 week. You do one video and another one. So I would do a game and then represent it. It's pretty tough, I would think, but that's what I always wanted to do. And maybe I'll get it to this point after I got through the game jam, right? I got some very interesting experience. So I would move on, and the idea didn't work out right, because it was too complicated. So kind of transform the idea into like, oh, the bunch of bubbles that will pop up because you swipe up like this, and the next time you replay, the bunch of bubbles come up and you can swipe those bubbles and they would disappear or something like that. Or you would confirm the successful swipe, and then I would add a bunch of music in the background, so it would look like a rhythm game, the way it would work, you would swipe a bunch of places in a bunch of rhythmic patterns or something like that, and another person has to like recreate those patterns in order that they pop up on the screen. And it's kind of like a rhythm game, but it's something that I'm not sure why, but I did not finish it or did not grab onto this idea. It's kind of weird for me because I don't really know the reason why. But then I switched to another idea which was completely new, but it still operated on this touchscreen idea that I have to use the touchscreen, right? So I would make a game where you just swipe into trash bins and those trash bins just fall off, right? And throw a bunch of trash out. So right, it's kind of like very super random, right? But it's this randomness that you are allowed to have with the theme of ritual, because like anything can be random or seem random. The ritual can seem random, but it could be very, very personal stuff. And this is kind of like, I just decoded how it kind of works, why I felt like, oh, it's a good thing to do, just make it random. And it kind of justifies that. So that's what I did basically. You would have an infinite type of gameplay where just infinite amount of trash bins would spawn, and then I would add other content like other containers for trash and different types of trashes. I would just quickly draw it on the screen. That was super quick stuff. So in intersections you would have houses, right? In the house intersections you would have a bunch of trash, and that would be infinitely generated. Every time you go to left, it would generate a new area. So that was the idea, and I kept with this idea until the point where whenever I swiped into trash and I wanted to implement some physics, so I swipe into trash and it moves this way, and I was like, what the fuck? And it was sort of random, but the very, very first trash can kind of worked. The other trash cans did not work, and that was very random, but it seems in the end I was just swapping two values together, like thinking that x works as y and y works as x. It's just a simple explanation. Obviously you could talk about how force works and how you implement force into a certain point, and I swap those values, like a direction I swapped with a point where it has to be, so just weird. Anyways, yeah, it was weird for like 4 hours, and 4 hours I couldn't figure this out, so I even ended up like texting my friend and asking, oh, can I get to your place, because this place sucks, right? I kind of failed already. But then my friend wasn't able to get home because he had other plans, so I had to take this out of a possibility that I could go back. And I kind of said to myself, okay, whatever I'm gonna do, whatever I'm gonna achieve, it's just whatever, right? I still must not lose by just completely just going away from the actual event. So I would push myself through. I say, okay, maybe I don't want to give up just yet, and I would try really hard to figure out what the problem was. And once I figured out that it was that simple, I kind of was ashamed, but then okay, just huge relief came on me because I was free to move on and just finish the game. So, because basically what I did at a certain point at night, like I was like, okay, this is pretty good. This looks pretty good, right? And I would sleep for like 3 hours. Bam. I would wake up. Oh shit! I slept for like 3 hours. Holy shit! Perhaps it was like from 3 to 6 a.m. Not sure. Maybe 7. Maybe it's, I don't know. Somewhere around this time, but it doesn't matter that much. What mattered, yeah, and I could talk about the food that I get, but it's all about the moral, right? The story has a moral, and that's the quicker you want to tell the story, the less you have time to talk about the shitty experiences that otherwise doesn't mean much. What really meant much is like we didn't have much to do with my friend. We didn't. I was stuck in the game jam, and I figured out that I have to push through. So, yeah, I would push through. The game would look decent, right? I even, at the very end, I would implement some flip mechanic, where you flip a trash bin and you get some time bonus or something like that. So at this point it was like gameplay all cooked up and ready to play. And I would draw and upload a game. What I draw was the main actual icon of the game. And compared to with other icons, like I actually like spend time on this stuff. Some people don't even do that, which is like a big deal, because how people are gonna play a game if they don't see some beautiful art on top? They're not gonna play the game. That's definitely what you're gonna get. So I got the art, I got the game all uploaded and stuff. That's pretty cool. Then after a while I tinker with the game a little bit more, kind of polish sort of thing, because it took me like one day to have this failed 2 attempts into making something, and then going to this type of thing. And then I would do a little bit of polishing, but not much. At this point, the game jam was ending, so once I uploaded the game, I just kind of left the place and went back to my friend. Basically, yeah, running away from the explosion. No need for no victory speech, which I probably wouldn't win anyways, because there was one very cool game which I could have beaten, but you know, didn't perhaps had a time, because if I had more time, like, I would have to sit through more and just figure out a little bit more about my own game, but whatever. Right now I'm gonna sit through 2 days left, right, for me. I will sit through left. Okay, so 2 days left for me to polish the actual game for you people, and I will upload it again, and you'll be able to play it, right? That's the idea of every single week. I would release a game, a video, and I would program the whole week, right? That's pretty cool, I would say. If that succeeds, then I will need a lot of support to get this kind of into the outside, into popularity. So that would be awesome. And the ending, I kind of go back with the train again, plus 1 hour of waiting because of whatever happened again, just this time for another reason. Some kind of train broke or something like that. Just completely bullshit. I also left my charger for my laptop, so that fucked me up a little bit because I had to order it online because I just spent 100 fucking pounds for in total just to get a fucking thing. That pissed me off. I also had to spend plus 100 pounds for the train trip that I missed because, well, I just booked it up too early. I don't know, I just fucking missed it. I should have like grabbed a little bit more time, maybe walk around Glasgow or something like that, but I totally missed my train and it sucked, right? But it was also rainy in Glasgow like it always is. It was really unpleasant weather and all that stuff. It could have been more unpleasant, so I'm glad it wasn't that unpleasant. But it was cold, rainy, you know. It's annoying. Up there in the north, I guess. Because I'm in South England, kind of. I don't know how they call this, but in geographical terms I would say it's south. Anyways, I would return, and for 1 week I would not be able to do much because I wouldn't have the charger right. But yeah, I would do a lot of thinking and figure out some things. In the end, hopefully I'll gonna make it a thing where I upload a video every single week, because that was like the running theme for 2 years. I would promise this thing over and over again. That would fuck me up real bad because I couldn't keep the promise, and now I know kind of why. The plan is to like push through 3 days, just completely push through the initial process, right? What the idea is, what kind of tools do I need to collect, and maybe I need to program some tools like polish some touchscreen input or something like that, and then I would polish the actual game. That's the idea. So with this idea in mind, I will be releasing games, and at the same time I would be upgrading my engine. And this is like how it would work. There is the source called the engine, and it grows as well as I would release bigger and bigger games because of the growth of the actual engine and the amount of tools that I can use and the actual skill of developing games as well. So in this way I would like become a real cool professional at some point. Like, it's almost like 3 years left until I have 10 years of experience in game design, and maybe 5 years until I have like professional experience in programming itself. It's kind of like the idea that and 7 years until I'm a professional Unity user. Like, in order to be a professional at something, you have to like have this type of content that is constantly updated. Like I would play also Hearthstone and stuff like that. So as long as it's constantly updated and it's in the long term, you can become a professional in that place. So that's what really excites me about certain types of things, I guess, mostly games, but because I'm making a game creation engine. So I think that's about does it. We have done 35 minutes in 5 rows or lines. Whatever. The end. And hopefully I keep my promises this time. Yeah, sometimes I might not have time because I'm constantly have to work to get the survival money, right? But other times I'll hope that I will not get too much work and I'll be able to focus on my thing. What work will definitely fuck me up on is that I have to release on early Saturday. The video has to be released early Saturday, even though I kind of want to release it on Sundays maybe, because the whole week I would work and the Sunday I would be able to rest. That's the idea, but as long as I work on random days, it's just gonna mess things up a little bit. So that's kind of the idea behind that. Hopefully at a certain point I will not have to work and I will be able to commit fully on my project. There's a side theme going on that I want to make a Kickstarter, right? So maybe I won't have to. But there are two ways, right? I either become popular or create a fan base that, you know, supports me constantly, or I can go for a Kickstarter, which I have to make a very good presentation. So if I don't become popular in a certain amount of time and I still keep on this model, which is very powerful, I would say, let's say in 6 months or something, if I keep up and I don't become popular, I would go for a Kickstarter. So these are kind of two choices. If it works out, and it should automatically become this, like I should get there, should get up there if I, for 6 months I really work hard on the games and people like the games. I'll polish the game. You're gonna find the video on the main channel, on the professional type of channel, and see you guys next time. Thank you guys for watching.